Hey guys, NJ here, welcome to the video. So this is now the third part in this little video series on the HGLRC F440 micro stack, and it's been quite an interesting journey. If you haven't already seen the first two videos, I really recommend you stop watching this and go back and have a look at those first, because we talked in depth about the unit in the first video and what we are planning to do with it, which is to install it into this 6-inch archon. And then the second video I put a lot of effort into making a nice rebuild video where we stripped out the old components. I had a lot of problems with this, with the old setup, and installed this stack into a 6-inch quadcopter with, you know, pretty considerable weight once everything's all up. I think the all up weight of this with a 4S 95C battery is around 635 grams, including the GoPro. So, you know, we've got a pretty decent amount of weight, high power setup, should be interesting. Anyway, HGLRC, when they got wind of me doing this, actually got in touch quite quickly and sent me something they'd circled on their website, which said their recommended setup is a 5-inch quad on 50/45 props and 2205 motors, or something around there. At which point I went back to them and said, well, power doesn't discriminate, power is power. How many amps you draw has no relevance necessarily to the quad. I might have built a complete ultralight, super efficient 10-inch quadcopter that only pulls 60 amps, at which point 60 amps, or the power in watts equivalent, power is power. That doesn't matter. Let's say it came to pulling 60 amps at that voltage through the ESC. If the ESC is rated to 160 amps with a burst of 200, then that's what it is. The actual size of the quadcopter doesn't matter. But it was interesting that it made them a little bit nervous. They came back to me and they said, and there was a little bit of lost in translation here, but what they were saying was, please consider the heat. And I think what they're kind of getting at there is, if you're to take all these components, these, you know, high quality MOSFETs, everything, and just cram them down into a tiny little 20 by 20 stack, heat is going to be something that you have to take into consideration. You know, they're all on a common rail, they're all very close together. It's entirely likely that in fact heat could be the bottleneck here. But my argument is, if heat's going to be an issue, at what point in the amp draw are we going to reach that point in power where heat is actually going to cause these BL Heli 32 ESCs to actually go into heat overprotection mode and shut off the ESC? Because if that is achieved at, say, 120 amps, then really you have to say this board is rated for 120 amps. It's all very well if you've got the components and on paper this can do 160 amps with a burst of 200, but if it reaches that heat bottleneck where the ESCs are going to shut down at 120 amps, you need to say this is for 120 amps at 4S or 5S or whatever your rating is. So it only intrigued me further in terms of taking this out for a test fly. Anyway, I've got more to talk about on this, so let's go to the field, have a look at the flight test, and you'll get to see what happens, and then afterwards let's come back and let's talk some more. So pretty interesting result, right? Now, at the end of the last video, my closing comment was flight or fire. And some of you said, yeah, that's going to be totally fine on that setup. Some of you were quite kind but hopeful and were saying things like, I really hope it, you know, that was a beautiful build. I really hope it serves you well. And I could see maybe there was some skepticism in there. And then some of you came straight out and said, yeah, you're setting that thing on fire. But as I said before I showed you the flight footage, what matters is what kind of amps you're drawing. It's the power that matters when we're talking about what these manufacturers are claiming when they say 160 watts. I know this was well inside of that. And the power rating, as far as this guy's concerned, I know from the old setup that I had in here, which did have a current sensor on it, that this thing was pulling about 80 to 85 amps. So I just had a gut feeling this shouldn't be an issue, and it wasn't an issue. And if it was an issue, that would be an instant, do not buy this product. But it turned out it handled that absolutely fine. So I was very pleased to see there was no issue with that. And obviously that's going to get a recommendation from me, but it doesn't serve much to testing the upper limits of this thing. But it's installed in there now, so what else could I do to draw more power out of it and see if we can test it further? I could look for some more pitch in the props, or look at tri-blades with heavy pitch. There's a few things that we could do there. But I chat at length with my buddy Andy RC about this, because he reviewed this already quite a while ago when this thing first came out. And one interesting thing that he told me was that initially this was rated for up to 5S. And since then, HGLRC have retracted that and said 3 to 4S only. And it's understandable, maybe they're saying we confidently know it's going to work within this, within these boundaries, that with 4S it's going to be fine. So I've got no problem with that. But I'm willing to wager that they haven't actually changed the hardware. They've just said that on the website, but this one, even though it's a more recently produced unit, is still the version 2, it's still the same hardware, and it's probably fine on 5S. And based on the fact that I know this draws 80 amps, 85 amps at full pegged throttle on 4S, on 5S we should still be well inside that 160 amps. So I'm going to do what I didn't think I was going to, which is to once again put some risk into this beautiful frame. I'm going to put some, I've got some graphene 5S 1300 milliamp packs. It's going to take the weight up a bit. We're going to be doing more RPM because the voltage is going to be higher. Obviously that's going to spin things up faster. We're going to be drawing a lot more current, or a decent amount more current. Still less than 160 amps, so it should be fine. So I'm going to ask you again. I want you to make a bet. And you tell me in the comments, NJ, this is going to catch, this is going to explode. You're going to plug it in and it's going to explode. They've definitely changed the hardware. Or do you think once again it's going to be fine? Either way, we're going to draw more current, we're going to put more stress on this board, and we're going to see what the temperatures are going to be like. So we had a 40 degree up to 50 degree temperature difference. So why don't you make some predictions on what you think the new temperatures are going to be like? That will be interesting too. Either way, exciting stuff. And I'll see you in the next one.